And the job market today looks very different than it did even just 5 years ago, thanks to the rise of AI, global instability, and shifting interest rates. And joining me now in studio to talk about how his advice to his students has evolved and what he would tell his 25-year-old self if he was starting out in today's economy is Mark Ting, our guide to personal finance and an adjunct professor at SFU. Hello, Mark.
Hello.
I think there's that Cher song, If You Could Turn Back Time. That's what we're talking about today. So looking back, what is the single piece of advice that you would give your 25-year-old self just about to graduate and head out into the world?
To be a problem solver. So the world is awash with problems, and there's not enough solvers. And what we're seeing now is corporations, companies, whoever's hiring, they're looking for problem solvers. So before I would say that, hard work. You work hard, you're going to be rewarded. But when I think about that, some of the hardest working people I know are some of the worst paid.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of go on that tangent of thinking differently. Critical thinking's a key. AI comes into this. So one of the biggest things that I told my students is if you're not using AI right now, you should get on it. Start using it because AI won't solve all your problems, but it can help you think in a different way. And you can, throw suggestions at it, come up with new ideas. And we're seeing that more and more employers are looking for those skills.
And if somebody is just sort of curious about AI and just starting out, where is sort of that best place to begin?
See, I'm not an expert in AI. I dabbled with it. I've been using it for years. I use it every day. But what I would do is ask the expert. Not just the expert in AI, but the expert in millions of other fields, which is I'd be asking AI. So essentially what you want to do is a prompt. If you've never used AI before, get a free version. There's a whole bunch of them out there and just say, hey, look, I'm 25 years old. I heard my prof said that I should be working on my problem-solving skills. I'm trying to work on critical thinking. Can you give me some tools or some ways I should learn how to use AI and implement it in my life? And then AI will come up with a magnitude of questions or answers, really. And then you might want to narrow it down. So that's the good thing about AI. You can keep asking it questions like a conversation. You say, well, actually, I got a family, I got full-time work, do all this. I can only allocate 30 minutes a day to this. Can you give me a workload or something I can follow, a guidebook? And then it will do that for you. So personally, I use it by talking to it. Like I just talk to it like a friend, and it spits out a lot of things. Yeah. And I don't think you can do that with a free version, but just get used to using it at all times.
Use it to your benefit. We have done stories in the past that it's obviously an incredibly tough job market. But for those who have done it, who've landed a job, what's the advice you would give them to really stand out and, keep it and excel in it?
So I'd say congratulations, first off, for landing that job. Now you want to keep it. And this is a very strong employer's market, meaning there's not that many jobs and tons of job seekers. And the mistake that I think people do is they think they land the job and they're good and they're golden.
That's it.
They are not. In this environment, we see a lot of fast hires and fast fires. I hear this all the time where people land a job and then literally a week later, they're gone. They were terminated. So again, be that problem solver, do that AI thing, but you just generally want to step in there and give a good impression. This is one of the problems that I heard someone do. They landed a job, $60,000 a year, just straight out of university. And they started asking a lot of questions and, when's the break? Do I get off at 5:30? What if I work till 5:35? Do I get overtime? And I'm like, chill. You got the job. You'll figure this out.
Settle in.
Sometimes with these newer career type jobs, there's some flexibility that you have to do. Sometimes if they're busy, you might have to work an extra half an hour, but often you get it somewhere else. So at this point, you don't want to seem like a problem. You want to set a good example, take initiative on a lot of things, and make it through that probation period.
And, for many people, you get a job, you work at it, and then you buy a home. Is that dream of home ownership or, owning a rental property still realistic for people that are in their 20s today?
Much harder, obviously.
Yeah.
I would say that the dream, or I would probably put it as almost a nightmare of owning a rental property. You don't want to do that. No. So I would take that completely off the table if you're in your 20s, probably even if you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s. It's just not a good investment. I've done the numbers all different ways.
It's not worth it.
But If you're in your 20s, I do know people who've done that. They've had the habits, they saved the down payments, and they did it on their own. Because I know a lot of people automatically think they got rich parents or they got inheritance.
Yeah.
But that's not true. Like if you form the right habits, you can get it done. It's just much harder, and there's always these trade-offs. So I think it's possible. And I also think that it's a massive buyer's market for condos right now, and that will probably last for another year and a half, so there's no real rush. So it's one of those things where I personally, I don't think renting's that bad. Like I think the better value right now is to be a renter. But if you have really good habits and you get a smoking deal because it's such a strong buyer's market, I wouldn't be against that either.
Okay. When your course is wrapping up, is there any sort of final advice and parting words that you share with your students?
So my course, I found a lot of it is based on 2 specific books. So if you cannot take my course, I would look at these 2 books. Now, the first part of the course is about that frugal mindset, thinking about opportunity cost of money, the trade-offs, all that sort of a thing. How you make sure that your goals are attained. You have to like set aside other things, living within your means, et cetera. And that book is called The Millionaire Next Door.
Right.
Very good book. I follow a lot of the practices myself, and I use a lot of the goals and tools in there in my course. And if you don't want to read it, I highly suggest you do. But you could actually go to AI and talk to it
the
and
Coles
say,
Notes version.
basically,
Yep.
but also ask a bunch of questions. So that's sort of the frugal mindset side. On the investment side, more than ever, people need very good financial acumen, but they also should be investing properly and early if they can. So if they're in their 20s, they should be investing in the stock market. They have time and just whatever it takes, $100, whatever they can afford as early as they can. And for that book, I would probably say it's called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And it doesn't talk about which stock to pick, what's going to do well under this circumstance. It talks about like the behavioral science of investing and why so many people do the opposite of what they should. So many people do not succeed because they buy high and sell low. That's how we're wired. And this will give you the tools, the mindset of when things are crashing, you should be buying low and you should be selling high. So those 2 books, Millionaire Next Door and Psychology of Money, phenomenal. If not, take my course.
And there's always that. Before I let you go, what about advice for saving money? Because that is a tough one.
So saving money is the tough one because I'm not a big believer in keeping a lot of cash on hand. Okay. So you have to keep enough cash on hand for your day-to-day needs and maybe that emergency fund. But beyond that, because of the world the way it is, our money is being debased, which means our buying power is going down. Okay. So it's not really saving money, it's investing money. If you want to succeed, and it's not just being rich, it's being like financially independent, financially secure, then you have to start investing. And you have to start thinking about the opportunity cost of that. Again, early, often, and do not stop. When markets are doing poorly, you should actually be thankful, mostly if you're young, because those are the best times.
All right. We will leave it there for today. Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you.